one of the things I really missed last year was taking our high school students to summer camp, because we always take our high school kids to this incredible, basically big gathering event conference that's put on by an organization called Christ in Youth, CIY Move. And what I love about that is we get to go to California, we get to go to the beach, and we take, 150 high school kids to Huntington Beach. And I love it. Like, it is so much fun. But one of my favorite things to do, and it makes me sound like an overprotective, anxious, worried dad, but when we get off the bus, I'm always explaining to them, hey, this is a real ocean. This is a real beach. And even though some of them are juniors and seniors in high school and they're very overconfident in their abilities to swim, there is a riptide. There is the undertow that will pull people out if they're not careful. And that always tends to exist, particularly at that beach and particularly at that time of year. And so always remind them, please be aware. Don't let the ocean take you too far one direction or the other. And I just know that no matter how strong, we have some high school boys that are they work out every day. They're muscly, they're strong. And I have seen every year for the last 9 years without fail, watching these students go out and overconfidently go, oh, we'll be fine. They try to go swim too far. And then wouldn't you know it, they end up 40 miles the wrong way to the right instead of where we're camped out on the beach. And I just know that that is always how it feels, even as an adult, that out in that water, it is amazing how the tide will pull you where it wants to go, not where you want to go. And that is, of course, an analogy, right? Come on, I'm totally setting up an analogy, aren't I? And it's just how our life is. The tide is going to take us where it wants to go, not where you and I want to go. And so we have to be really careful. We cannot assume that by making the right decisions or just by raw effort or more praying and more Bible reading that we're going to be doing the things God would want us to do. No, we need to be better at reading the tide, and even better, what we have to do is we have to not let something move us. We need to not get so far out into the deep of other things going on in the world that we let it carry us away from what God would have us do. The reason I set it up like that is to now read to you, which is what I think is one of Paul's most incredible ideas that he gives us. These are his you gotta read these ideas that the Apostle Paul leaves us. And this is the first one. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. And this is a passage I personally, as a follower of Jesus, I come back to all the time because it recenters me and it gives me a hope unlike any other passage that I find in Scripture. And so here it is. Paul says, therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, because you can't just read a line where it says brothers and sisters. You can't just read it. Don't be boring. You got to go, my dear brothers and sisters. You got to say it like you're preaching on Sunday morning and you're sweating, right? Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. For me, comparing this verse with what we've talked about with the ocean is simply this. You and I are never going to be able to resist the tide, the current that is always going to pull us where it wants to go and not where you want to go. So the key is not when you read, stand firm, don't let anything move you. The key is not, hey, go way out into the deep with all the world's anxieties, problems, temptations, struggles. Just swim out there recklessly because you're strong enough. You can handle it. No, don't do that. It's go into the ocean to the point where you're still safe. Or I should say, to the point where the tide has no way of taking you too far against your will. A lot of us, followers of Jesus, we think that we're just supposed to try harder this year. As we get ready to look at a new year, we may think and be tempted to think it's all about trying harder and doing more. And sometimes what we actually need to do, instead of adding to our life, we need to subtract. And I want to invite you, what is something from your life you need to subtract in the new year? What is something in your life that you need to take away because it's just another way that the tide has been pulling you out? It's just another way that you're not going to be able to stand firm and let nothing move you. What you and I need in the new year is to give ourselves fully to the work of God that's always in front of us. It's always the next right thing we can do is the work of God in front of us. And when we do that, our work is never in vain. God's going to take whatever little work we do, and he's going to take it further than we could ever imagine. But the problem is you and I recklessly head out into the world and its problems and its anxieties. We head out into a world filled with our temptations and our struggles and our baggage and our issues. And we just think that because we're a Christian, we can handle it. And I want to encourage you that maybe instead of adding more to your life, what we have to do is subtract. You're going to have to stop swimming in the deep of the world, and you're going to have to get closer to shore where God is always doing what he's always been doing. There's got to be a way that maybe this year God would have you connect with someone, meet with someone, volunteer somewhere, serve somewhere. The only way you're going to be able to have margin for that is by subtracting something. Because see, by adding more, we just throw ourselves into the deep end of the ocean, and it's going to take us where it wants to go. But God says, stand firm. Paul reminds us, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord. In other words, put your attention in the right place, because you know that your labor in the Lord is never in vain.